Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video, I kind of showed you guys how to secure your zone, lock it up, get a chest down, and get a door down. So what we're going to do this video is we're going to start grinding a little bit, get some logs, and try to at least secure our first little starter base so that way nobody can just walk in and take everything. So the first thing is I'm going to want to use some of these resources I got before and craft up a bunch of tools. That way I can go around, chop a bunch of trees down, and make it back over here. Um, and then without having to, go back and forth a ton. And then once I do that, I can put these log spikes up. So going over here, I'm going to craft a few. I'll craft a hatchet. I guess I'll go ahead and use my medium bars first since they can be used for multiple things. Well, dang, that sucks. See, so now I used up my hammer, so I should have been smart and used a little bit of resources to make another hammer. So what I'll do now is I'll make an iron maul, so now I can use this maul when crafting everything else. So, and I'll go ahead and make an extra one as well out of aluminum. So now I'll make a bunch of iron and aluminum axes. So these will be used to cut down the trees, and then I can use my small bars to make the knives that I'll need to craft them. So since I have these large aluminum bars already, I'll go ahead and make one anvil, but I'll use the other two for some armor. So I'll make a plate body and plate legs. And then that way, if I'm traveling around and I encounter anybody, it'll make it harder for them to kill me as quickly. So aluminum's pretty light. It's not very strong, but it's pretty light, so it's not going to affect your speed very much. So ideally, we'll get a horse at some point if I can find one. I'll probably build my base halfway up and then try to show you guys how to trap a horse. So I'll go ahead and place this anvil down as well, so I'm not dragging it around the whole time. All right, so now let's start our trek. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to look for just pretty much any tree. Usually you would want to do just large trees because they're stronger. But I'm going to cut down any tree and then I'll explain some of the weaknesses of the base that I build. So I'm not really going for a perfect base here, but I'm just going for something to show you like how to get started and have an idea of what to do. So the more large trees you see, the better. The larger it is, the stronger it's going to be. The more durability it's going to have, so the longer it's going to take somebody to raid you, and then the smaller the log, and if it's a fruit log, it's going to be the weakest. So yeah, as you chop them down, you'll have to drop sticks. Eventually we're going to make it to where you can elect to auto drop the sticks, because right now you auto drop any seeds that you get. But for now you have to go in and drop them as you cut. So you can't cut a few at a time or fill up an inventory and then drop them afterwards, so that's a little bit quicker. But all right, let's make it back over to the base and we'll make our first round of log spikes. So you go up to the workbench and you can use that to craft the log spikes that you need. So I'll go ahead and use these large oak ones, craft up the smaller ones, and then usually I would probably use the maple ones for doors and stuff, but in the future we'll upgrade to metal, so there's no real need. Alright, so now starting off placing the log spikes, you want to place them in such a way that they overlap a little bit, and the reason you want to do this is so there's no like peak holes in between, because one thing that people can do is they can look into your base. So I'll place one real quick. I'll place a cheaper one that I'll destroy. So you can place like this fruit one right here. If I just place it right here, now you can see into the base right here. So if I have a chest right there, or even that anvil, somebody could come up right here and use my anvil. If I had a chest right there that was unlocked, somebody could come up and open the chest and take my stuff. So you really don't want to have this space. Also, if I was in here right now, they could kill me through this wall because they can see me. So you really want to place the stronger spikes, and you want to put them like right up next to each other so you can't see through them. So once you place something, if you don't like that it's there, if you own the zone, you can just right click on it with the required tools. So if I'm wielding a hatchet right now, so I can just right click and delete it. And so any building errors, you can always correct it by just deleting it. So I'll place a new one right up to the edge, boom. Alright, so I have a little bit of a wall going up, and over time it'll become nicer and you can add layers to it, but for now it's good to just have something up. Eventually there are some more advanced objects in the game, so like a foundry, for example, is one. If you find a boulder, you can chisel it down into a foundry base, and then you can use cement to make it into a foundry. And so basically what a foundry is, it's like a stockpile of your metal resources. So it's almost like a giant furnace that you just unload all of your ores into, and then it just has them all in there. And so anytime you need ores, you can just, or anytime you need bars, it'll smelt them down for you, and then you can just get the bars out that you need over time. So all you have to do when you go out mining, instead of mining the rock and then burning each ore on the fire, you can just go back to your base, throw it all in your foundry, let it smelt over time, and then anytime you need those bars, it'll make it. Another thing about the foundry is you can make alloy metals. So right now we're stuck to just basic aluminum and iron and titanium and tungsten. But once you get the foundry, you can actually make the alloy version. So you could make steel, or you could make, bronze. You can make aluminum alloy, titanium alloy, and so there's a lot more metal, like stronger metals. So, all right, let's go on my second trip of cutting down these trees to finish up this wall. You'll notice my levels were starting to decline there, so I drank a pond. I'll probably try to find some food here in a minute because I'm getting fairly low on hunger. It's not too bad right now, but it's always good to keep it as high as possible. That way you don't forget and then it starts hurting you. You really want to keep your health at 100% in case you encounter another player and they try to kill you. So let me cut down some more trees. So all I'm doing is a little bit of inventory management. I'm just eating the fruit that I'm picking off the trees and then dropping the sticks. That way I have room for more logs for cutting the next tree. So, all right, now I'll craft up the rest of the spikes. So yeah, I just lost my workbench, so I'll craft another workbench. I'll use maple this time. That way it'll last a little bit longer. And I'll go ahead and put it inside of my base. It'll probably break before I finish the base, but it's always good to keep this stuff locked up in case somebody else comes along and wants to use it. Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind about this base, I just put down a really large, or a really small spike, and one negative thing about those is, I mean, for one, they're really weak. If I hover over it in the bottom right, you can see the durability is 140, whereas if I hover over this large one, it's 420. So it's 3 times as strong for the large one. The medium is twice as strong as the small one. So it's always better to use the larger one. It also covers a larger area, so the small one, barely covers any area. So I could break this right now and get into the base, and so it would definitely be worth just using the larger logs, especially with wood, because the wood is so much cheaper. Once you get into the metal, you can start using the smaller ones. But another thing too is if you get on a horse, you could maybe peek over that a little bit, whereas with the large one, there's no chance of that. So it kind of helps with privacy as well. So yeah, there's a lot of intricate base design. I guess I can show you guys later on in another video some of the bases that are on the map, and you can kind of see, oh, see, I didn't place this one very well. You can kind of peek through. It's not too bad, but I'll leave it. It's not terrible. Yeah, there's some very intricate base designs that I can show around the map. People put a lot of time and effort into building smarter bases, different designs, things like that, because eventually later on in the game, you'll come across some sulfur, which you can make into dynamite, and then you can use the dynamite to blow into people's faces. So it's important to, build your base in such a way that people have a hard time getting in. With what I'm building right now, it's a very, very primitive base. Pretty much any player who plays actively would be able to get into this within, a very short amount of time. But just for the sake of getting started, usually they wouldn't have a reason to do that because the sulfur that it would cost to get into the base is pretty expensive, whereas the loot in here is going to be pretty much non-existent. So a good player probably wouldn't waste the time to raid this base because there's basically no reason to at this moment. But over time it will, as I gather more and more resources, I'll have more value for them to raid. But so they'll be more inclined to do so. But I'll also be able to build a stronger base. So it's kind of something you got to do over time. Just constantly be building your base up so that it's harder for people to raid you. So yeah, I'm going to put these last few spikes down here. I'm going to go ahead and leave this part open. As you can see, general idea of just building the base. You see how I could finish it out here. I'm going to leave this open because in the next video I'm going to try to find a horse and then guide it, trap it in my base. So you'll see a way of like trapping animals, and then that way we can get on a horse, and it makes a lot of things faster. So thanks for watching the video. Hope to see you in the next one.